Oh, it's my pleasure to have him back. You know what I mean? This is the new show, but I had him on the old show, but it feels like the first time I had him back because I got my wife next to me, so everything feels right as rain. Mr. Eric Bischoff, sir, how are you?
I'm doing great. Doing great.
Speaking of doing great, you have a book called Grateful, sir. I was running down the synopsis and whatnot. I got to get myself a copy so I can read because I ain't read a good book in a while. Can you tell the people at home listening about the book? What does it entail, and what's the book mean to you?
Well, Grateful kind of picks up where my previous book, Controversy Creates Cash, left off. And the book Grateful kind of covers my life and my career from about 2006 to present day. And I certainly cover a lot of things wrestling related that happened during that time because I left WWE and went on to go to work for TNA and then got hired back by WWE and did a bunch of other things in between. So we do talk a lot about wrestling, but it's more about how I learned to be really grateful for the things that I've experienced in the wrestling business, because it just dawned on me really within the last few years as I look back and think, man, I got to do some pretty amazing things. And the industry has benefited, obviously, my wife and my children, and they got to do some pretty amazing things as a result too. And it was the first time in my career, 30 years or more, where I actually looked at my time in wrestling and appreciated it in ways that I had never appreciated it before. Before it was, it was transactional and made a lot of money and got to travel and got to be on TV and do all the stuff that everybody's pretty aware of and that are obvious. But I didn't appreciate those things nearly as much as I could have. And that's really what the book is all about, is how I learned to be grateful and how being grateful and learning how to become grateful, because it's an art. It's just like bodybuilding or training for a physical, event. It's something I have to practice and work on every day. But that process of learning how to become grateful has had such a dramatic impact on the rest of my life. And that's really what the book is about.
It's really cool though to hear that though. Do you feel does that come with age though, Mr. Bischoff? Is that reflection? Can that reflection happen earlier? Is it just because you're getting older and you're having some time to think back about all those times you had, or you just too busy working, or is this just something that just dawned on you one day?
I mean, I think it's different probably for everybody. For me, it was, I've always hustled. I've been an entrepreneur all of my life, really. And as an entrepreneur, you're always looking for that next cool project or that next big idea or that next whatever it is. And that's been my life since I was about 8 years old.
Wow.
And I think now that things have slowed down for me, although I'm still pretty busy, I have a lot of projects that I'm doing, a little more selective now, but I'm still very busy. But I think with age comes perspective, and I'm stubborn, I'm a slow learner. I wished I knew when I was in my 30s and 40s what I know now.
Right.
I really wish, and it's not that I wasn't capable of learning it. It's just the way I was brought up, my nature of just always pushing and looking for that next opportunity. I didn't give myself time to really think about it. And a couple of things happened to me over the last few years. I've made a lot of money in the television industry. Not to brag, but a lot of money.
I'm about to say, man, look, let me get $5, Eric Bischoff.
But I've also experienced some pretty tough times. I can't say I've hit rock bottom over the last 5 years, but I've bounced off of it enough to know what it looks like. And I've had to reinvent myself as a result. I made some really bad business investments. They didn't pan out, as investments often do with startup, new companies. And it really took a toll on me at a time in my life where I woke up one day and went, wow, I'm in my 60s, man. I can't just go reinvent myself again. It takes time.
Yeah.
And I think by learning how to really appreciate the things that are truly important and be grateful for them,
Mhm.
it has such a positive impact on my outlook that I was able to turn things around once again financially and kind of end up back where I was almost.
Wonderful.
So, but it was learning how to be grateful that gave me that, I don't know, motivation, inspiration, confidence, whatever. I don't know what it is. To just go out and do the things I need to do to reinvent myself one more time at 65 or 66 years old.
You can always do it.
I was trying to have a nice, good old wholesome interview, and I was happy to have him on. And then right before you signed on, I see you drop something on your 83 Weeks podcast, and you over here ruffling the internet's feathers. You're talking about Tony Khan, and I was like, oh, hold on, I gotta ask him about this. Okay, listen, but that's not where I want to go. That's not where I wanted to go, because you already said it on your podcast. Y'all listen to 83 Weeks podcast, you want to hear what he said. But what I do want to ask you though is, what would Eric Bischoff do if you were in Tony's position? Because all I hear is other people talking about ratings, and that's way above my pay grade. That's not what I'm here for. I'm here to do a show, and I bring smart people like you on to do that, because I ain't gonna talk about numbers and 18 to 49 demographics and all that other crap, but because I don't know nothing about it. But you do. What would you do to change some things at AEW to help them out a little bit in regards to professional wrestling? Is it signing people? Is it production? Like, what would you do?
There's a lot. And I say that because it's a new company. You know, it's only been around for 4 years or whatever it's been. So it's still a relatively new company, and there's a lot to learn and a lot to try to accomplish all at the same time with a new company. But I think if it were me, the first thing that I would do is focus on story.
Mhm.
I know Tony thinks he's a great booker, and he's talked about, you know, if Ted Turner only knew 1% of what Tony Khan knows about wrestling and booking, that WCW would still be around. That's when he said that, I lost a lot of respect for Tony, because it was just a stupid thing to say, and disrespectful to Ted, especially when Tony's on a Turner network, by the way.
Okay. I just look.
Dynamite's on TBS. That stands for Turner Broadcasting
That's
System.
last time I checked.
Wow.
So to be that disrespectful to Ted, and then combining that with, you know, such a stupid statement about, you know, if Ted only knew as much as Tony, WCW would still be around. That made me lose a lot of respect for him. But that being said, wrestling is and always has been episodic television.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
It's a soap opera. You can call it whatever you want, for men and women.
Yeah.
That's what I always say.
Yep.
But it's a physical soap opera.
Exactly.
And it needs to be episodic. The show needs to have some of the same basic elements that any form of entertainment has in terms of story structure. Right now, what AEW is just random matches with no real reason why we're watching them. And they'll slap together a couple, an interview here, a promo there, an angle here, an angle there to kind of justify what they're doing. But there's no real story behind any of it.
Yeah.
And what passes for a storyline in AEW and AEW's fans, unfortunately, wouldn't ever pass muster with any other form of scripted entertainment. It's just childish in its presentation in terms of its storylines. They've got phenomenal talent.
You feel they have the talent. You feel they have the talent.
They have the talent to do it. Tony doesn't have the basic, just fundamental understanding of storytelling.
Yeah, like plot. Yeah.
He doesn't really understand television. That's obvious by the way the show is formatted. It's just bad. There's no other way to say it. But if I was Tony, I would focus on my creative. I would focus on the formatting of my show and really make Dynamite something that is must see, that it compels the viewer to tune in every single week to find out what's going to happen next. And I'm not talking about just advertising things on social media, and sure, that helps a little bit, but you've got to condition your audience to believe that they can't afford to miss an episode of your show because something really interesting is going to happen, or storyline is going to advance, and the viewer doesn't want to miss out on that experience. And until you do that with quality storytelling and characters that evolve within that story. Until you do that, you're simply just throwing matches up against a wall and hoping it sticks. And it's just not a good formula, obviously.
There's the money is money. You know, if you have it, you can do a lot with it. But do you see a world where AEW ends at all? Because of lack of viewership, because of lack of sponsorship, because of lack of certain things, do you ever see it even though they have that, they got that con money backing them?
Yeah, it's not about the money. Look,
Mm.
it's not even about how much money the Khan family makes off this investment. It's how much money the television partner can make off their investment.
That's right.
If TBS is spending $45 million a year for AEW programming, I just think, you know, basic common sense would suggest that they want to get a return on that $45 million a year investment. And the only way that they could do that, not the only way, but the primary way they can do that is with ad sales. But if they're not able to sell enough advertising at a high enough price on that show, then regardless of whether Tony Khan cares about how much money he makes or doesn't make, the network will.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's where you're vulnerable. It's not about Tony's bank account and how much money he's willing to, you know, back AEW with. It's about keeping the network happy. Because like I said,
So many nuances.
if they can't get enough of a premium for that advertising time, they'll look for something else that will.
I can dig it. I was I said I like picking your brain when it comes to that kind of stuff. I really do. It's just you give a different perspective than very level-headed, non-hyperbolic responses to situations.
Not always, though. Not always.
Listen,
He's still a human being.
I got to subdue Eric Bischoff today. You know, no, listen,
you got one that's got a head full of Sudafed. That's what you got.
Yo, we got him on the over-the-counter meds. You know what I mean? He got the allergies, and he still pulled up. I was watching the commercial, and the NWO popped on. The A&E's dropping a nice little thing. I seen you on there giving your thoughts, and I instantly just remember the times just going through school and like you knew you had a kindred spirit, whether you knew them or you didn't know them. If they walked down the hallway and they had the NWO shirt on, you knew you guys were connected in some way and fashion. And that's my fondest memories of the NWO, is seeing people in school that you didn't think was a wrestling fan because of that product that you guys put out those years ago. And it got me thinking. I said I'm gonna have him on the show. Like, do you want about being grateful and reflecting back on things? What's the NWO mean to you in your career, and you as a person, still regarded as probably the greatest faction of all time?
Yeah, I mean, look, it was the highlight of my career professionally, and a lot of great things came out of that. You know, it wasn't just how it affected me and how the NWO affected WCW, but how that affected the entire wrestling industry in ways that we still see today.
Yes.
In many respects, you know, that the NWO, when Hulk Hogan turned in July of '96, we had already been more than competitive with Monday Night Raw.
Yes, sir.
We had competition. But we ran away with it, with the NWO. It was no longer competition. It was, we dominated. And that forced WWE to make some significant changes in their business model, because they had to compete with us now. For the first time, they had someone else that they had to catch up to. And by abandoning the WWE formula that existed prior to '96, actually, it lasted all the way up until '97 in WWE. But that formula, that business model, was very much a teen and preteen business model, meaning the characters, the way the stories were presented, everything about WWE was created to appeal to a teen audience or a preteen audience.
Right.
And when I launched Nitro, and particularly by the time we got into the NWO era in '96, I had made up my mind that I was going to focus primarily, not exclusively, but primarily on the 18 to 49-year-old male audience, because they were not being served. WWE was looking at teens and preteens, and he made a lot of money doing that. It was a great strategy for a time. But once the NWO came along and we ran away with it, it forced WWE to change that business model. Now they were going after the 18 to 49-year-old males that we had.
Mhm.
That's where the Attitude Era came from.
Yes, sir.
Was their reaction to what we were doing on Nitro. And that competition elevated WWE significantly. And Vince McMahon did a couple brilliant things, and he was smart, he was aggressive, but he was strategic at the same time. And I think the Monday Night Wars were probably one of the things that led to WWE being able to take their company public.
Yes, sir.
And when they took the company public, they were able to build and grow so much more. So I think that competition in the NWO has had such a dramatic impact on the overall industry that that's kind of how I reflect on it. You know, I look at it as just a point in time, and one that though is very, very significant, far beyond the storyline in the merchandise and even the money that it generated, because it changed the industry in a positive way.
Indeed. One of the things that I've been seeing, you know, that's been taking the world by storm is Sami Zayn and being embroiled in this bloodline, and I've always thought Sami Zayn was one of those people that can wrestle his ass off and do what he needs to do. I thought he was much more than a court gesture. I thought he was much more than a match with Johnny Knoxville, not knocking that match. I always thought he was more than that. Next thing you know, he's in this title match in Elimination Chamber with a Roman Reigns. But that's me rambling. What I wanted to ask you is, can a Sami Zayn type main event of WrestleMania in your opinion?
Sure. I mean, there's a lot of people today, you know, that are fans, and some people that write about wrestling. And there's a big debate. You know, should Sami have won, and should Sami face Cody and beat Cody at WrestleMania? There's a lot of people that believe that. I'm not one of them.
I'm not either.
But he certainly could.
Mm-hmm.
There's no question about whether Sami could or not. I just don't think the timing is right now. And that's so opposite of what a number of people believe. But Sami, one of the most powerful characters you can have on your show, is a baby face that's striving to achieve something.
Exactly.
A world title in this case.
Mm-hmm.
The value in that character isn't getting that world title.
Wow. The
value in that character is the audience's desire to see that character achieve something and be willing to go on that journey until he or she does. You don't want to cut that short.
Yo, EB, why do people not understand what you just said there?
Because
I told you it comes a little different from you. I say this all the time. You said it better than me, but I say the exact same thing. I talk to my wife about this all the time. Why don't they get the fundamental concept of why they care so much?
Yeah.
Like why do you think people don't get that? Like, I'm arguing with people. I go, you don't understand why you're so invested. You know what I mean? But that doesn't mean he should win. Like, why don't people get the concept you just laid out?
Because they don't understand television. They don't understand the wrestling audience. You know, there's one guy in particular, and you probably know who he is because I can't stand him, but Dave Meltzer. This guy's been writing about, you know, professional wrestling for a long time, 35 years or more, whatever it's been. And a lot of people look to Dave as, you know, being kind of an expert because he's been writing this dirt sheet for as long as he has.
Yes, sir.
But Dave has never produced 5 minutes of television. He doesn't really understand
Fun fact.
how you build a character and how you build story. And when people like Dave, and there are others who profess to be experts on something, but yet, oh, no, the data says, you know, Sami's ratings over the last 6 weeks have said this, therefore he should be the champion. They don't understand because they've never had to do it. They've never tried and failed or tried and succeeded. They just sit on the sidelines and talk about it. And there is a difference, no matter how much you watch, no matter how much of a student of a sport or product you are, you do have to have done it in order to really understand it. And I think
say
it's
that all
just a
the time.
function of people who have strong emotional feelings, like myself included. I mean, I am so happy for Sami Zayn.
Me too.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I mean, I just can't say enough great things about him as a person, as a performer,
Mhm.
as an artist.
Absolutely.
He's
a
great.
very, very, very smart, very creative guy. And he clearly knows how to connect with the audience in a way that very few people have in the last 10 or 15 or 20 years.
Exactly.
Can't say enough good things about him. But I just don't think people understand the value in the chase.
The chase. Yeah.
And here's the other thing. Okay, Sammy wins the title. Now what? Or shit, my story is over already.
Exactly.
I say this all the time. But I told you I'm not Eric Bischoff though. I can't just say that. Nobody cares what I got to say.
That's what happened when you said about Liv Morgan.
I said because I love Liv.
But everybody, they wanted, like,
Yes.
she needed it, and then she got it, and then
they
bailed on her.
Yeah, and then what? And where do you go from there? Like if I was Sami Zayn and somebody came to me and said, if Paul Levesque came to me and said, "Okay, Sammy, you're gonna beat Roman and then you're gonna beat Cody at WrestleMania," I'd be going, "No, because then I've got nowhere to go." Next thing that's going to happen is I'm going to get beat by somebody. You know?
Exactly.
I think it kind of bring me to something else I was thinking about. And you could tell me I'm way off base on this, and it's fine. I kind of almost need you to, because what the hell is Bray Wyatt doing, Eric Bischoff? You tell me what I don't. Does he know what he's doing?
That's one of those. I'm just going to watch and see where it goes.
I'm trying to, but I can't. What if I die tomorrow, Eric Bischoff? How long must I wait, Eric Bischoff?
I don't know, man. I don't know. That's a really bizarre. Bizarre is not the character in the presentation is so. First of all, it's cool as hell.
It is.
No, yeah.
And
It's
it's
got cool things
unique,
going on.
But I don't know how to relate to it. I don't. What do I want for that character?
Yeah.
Do I want him to emerge as a hero?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe an anti-hero? Do I want him to be an antagonist? Do I want him to be a bad guy? I don't know what I want him to be.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at him going, wow, that's really cool. I can't wait till it's revealed. And there's, we will have been watching all these different incarnations of Bray Wyatt character. And I hope at some point we go, oh, okay, now that all makes sense.
God, I hope you're right about what you just said there. Because Lord have
WrestleMania.
Listen, if it ain't WrestleMania, when the hell's it gonna be?
I don't know.
All right, man, I'm done. I told you, I swear, because people think I don't like him. I love Bray Wyatt.
Yeah,
it's just like, I just don't understand. I'm sorry. Help me understand what he's doing, man. He's just beating people up that I like.
Yeah. I just want him to go back to the bayou, with the following the buzzards. And I just want that.
See, I like that character too. I thought that was a cool character.
Me and my wife are just, that's all this is. We're just bitter. That's all this is about.
Because I was like, you never brought in Sister Abigail. I'm like, a wrestler
on the PC could be Sister Abigail, his long lost sister. It's
like she's not dead.
Come on. Or she and possesses the spirit of Alexa Bliss. Come on, man.
Like something like that. But I don't know.
Mr. Bischoff, sir.
This is therapy for you, isn't it? You're getting a lot off your chest here today.
Yeah, I'm stressing out. Listen, Logan Paul, sir. Thoughts on Logan Paul as a professional wrestler, not as a person, because he does a lot of silly things to me that he shouldn't be doing. But I mean, in the ring, in the squared circle, it looks to me like he cares.
Yeah.
About getting better, being better, making a statement, making a thing for it. But where do you stand on Logan Paul? I go so far as saying WWE might have the audacity to put a title on that young man's waist. But what say you?
He's class all of his own. We're already kind of taking him for granted. Every time I see that guy do something in the ring, I keep going, you know what? 2 years ago, none of this stuff was going on.
Not at all.
I mean, to be able to learn and perform physically at the incredibly high level that Logan's performing at, if you didn't know better, you would think this guy's been in the ring for 10 years.
I agree.
And that is so hard to achieve. I can't even imagine how he's been able to do it. He's a phenomenon, and so is Bad Bunny, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
No, oh my
man.
God. He's like in our brain.
Yeah, we think about the same thing. And I know, when I granted, I know, and I've said this before. Yes, he has Shawn Michaels. He has some great people in the PC like with him. However, I can have Leonardo da Vinci like teach me how to paint. Eric Bischoff. That don't mean I can paint.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's just reps, and that's why it takes so long, and it takes so much time for a performer in the ring to really find themselves and have the level of experience and confidence where they're in command of everything that happens in that ring and in command of how the audience reacts to them.
Mhm.
That's an artist right there. And there are a few of them out there, quite a few actually, but it takes a long time to develop that. And Logan's been able to just jump in and do it at an incredibly high level with no real experience. I can't say enough good things about him in that regard. I don't know anything else about him. I mean, I know he's a massive influencer and he's everywhere and all that. I think he's been a huge asset for WWE.
I agree.
I think if he does end up with a championship of some sort at some point in the near future, I think the audience is going to accept that because he is such a great performer. If they brought in an influencer like Logan Paul, with Logan Paul's influence, but was only kind of barely adequate in the ring, the audience would gag on it.
Absolutely.
They would set their TVs on fire.
Yes.
But when you can perform at the level Logan does, I don't think he's going to get that typical resentment from a wrestling audience that really feels like you should earn your way there.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it'll be even more glaring at WrestleMania because they're looking like him and Seth Rollins, and I think the way Seth performs, I think he might have his best showing even over the Roman Reigns match. I think it'll just keep elevating his stock as far as believability, because I think that's at the end of the day, wrestling fans, you know how they are. If you pass the smell test, they're like, oh, okay, this is okay. He's not just here to just take some time away from a wrestler.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I was talking to somebody today. I may have been Conrad Thompson. Or yesterday. And I think it was Conrad, it may have been somebody else, but believes that Logan and Seth could steal the show at WrestleMania. And a lot of that, it's obviously because of Logan and his phenomenal ascension, but he's in there with Seth Rollins. And Seth, if there's any flaws at all in Logan's game, you're never going to know about it.
That's exactly right. Absolutely right. Well said. What you got for Eric Bischoff, baby?
Oh, yes. No, I mean, my questions are very important. No, no. I had noticed that you've been married for almost 40 years.
Yes.
That's very incredible.
It is.
I mean, we're coming up here on 10. So, I mean, like, that's not anything.
I've known her since like 2000 though.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you have just short advice, like, how you make that wonderful length keep going.
Well, there's a lot that goes into it.
This was like as short as.
But I think the one, I'll tell you what I told my son this past week when I was down in Florida visiting him and his wife and my grandson. Is because now that they've got a year and a half old, and that dominates your life. My daughter-in-law has her own business, which when you're the boss, you own your own business. It's really a 24-hour a day job.
Yeah.
Now they've got a young kid. My son's got a challenging job. If you're not careful, you can kind of forget who you are, and I think one of the things my wife and I did, long before I got into wrestling, regardless of what situation we were in financially, and, when we were young, we're like everybody else when we were young, barely making it. No matter what, though, and even when we had kids, we always made sure we had at least one date night. And I dated my wife. We dated each other. We still do.
That's awesome.
Friday nights were date nights, and we treated them like that.
That's awesome.
We treated it like a date, not like let's just get out of the house and get away from the kids. Let's go have a couple cocktails and forget about our week. It wasn't that. We treated them like dates, and it just keeps you appreciative of each other. You don't take each other for granted. I think that's what happens sometimes is, I've heard the saying familiarity breeds contempt.
Mm.
Well, familiarity, maybe if it doesn't breed contempt, it can breed a lack of appreciation because you just accept it.
That they're there.
Or you expect it, I should say.
Yeah.
And that's where things can start falling apart. So I told my son, no matter how tough it gets, man, just take your wife on a date at
Take
least
a
one
moment.
night a week, no matter what. No matter
Take a
what.
moment for you guys.
Yeah.
For yourselves.
I see. I always say, Mr. Bischoff, I told you I'm giving this girl about 65 years. So when I'm like 98, I'm divorcing her. So that's what I told you.
You're gonna be a silver fox at like 85 years old. Okay.
It's over, baby. I'm going back on the market, Eric Bischoff, at 98.
So he's like, just keep you on your toes. Okay.
Someone goes, Evan, but she'll be like used up. I go, yeah, that's the joke, guys. That I ain't divorcing this woman. Are you crazy? But anyways, sir, before I get you out of here, I wanted to do something. I usually try to do different Mount Rushmore, but everybody does Mount Rushmore wrestlers and all that other stuff. I don't like doing that because that's crazy. It's only 4, but I do want to do your Mount Rushmore of like promo guys though. Your top 4 promo guys ever. What do you like? Wrestler, talker, manager, ballet, whatever you got. Who's your top 4 promo guys?
Dusty Rhodes, Ric Flair, Hulk Hogan. Let's see who else. I always liked Roddy Piper. He was nuts, but I liked him. Sometimes he'd cut these promos and were so passionate, and then you get done, you go, "The hell did you just say?" I throw Roddy Piper up there.
Oh, Piper,
Hogan. I really
Dusty.
enjoy. You got to throw Rock on there.
Oh, really?
I don't think he was the best promo, but he was the best performer.
Yeah.
In a promo.
Yeah. I used to get a kick out of him when he would when he would wrestle people and like he hop on commentary, like while he was beating people up. You know what I mean?
Rock just energized the crowd in a way that very few performers can. He didn't necessarily tell a story the way I like promos to tell stories, but man, he was electrifying.
What's the biggest pop you've ever heard ever?
Hard to say. For me, I think I wrestled Steve Austin.
Oh, wow.
In Montreal.
Yeah, you gotta show. Yeah, you gotta see that.
At No Way Out.
It's good.
And as we saw, at Elimination Chamber, that Montreal crowd is super hot.
Unreal, man.
And that venue is such that the ambience, the sound is just, it comes alive. The building actually starts breathing on you, It's so cool. And because it was Steve's first match back, it wasn't much of a match, by the way, but it was Steve's first time back into the ring. I had a fair amount of heat, so I think the audience was kind of excited to see him stomp a mud hole in me. So for me to go out and to be in the ring with someone like Steve Austin on that night in Montreal was probably the biggest pop I've heard.
Wow. It's awesome. Mr. Bischoff, it's a pleasure as always. I appreciate your time, sir. It was thank you for taking the time and hanging out with me and my wife for a little bit.
I'm happy I got the invitation. Let's do it again down the road.
We got to, sir. Anything you want to put over? Can I put something over? What you got? Anything cooking? Anything?
No, I mean, the book, obviously, Grateful. You can get it over at Amazon. I think we're one of the #1 wrestling books or top 2 or 3,
awesome.
Whatever. But yeah, it's available at Amazon. Or you can go to bischoffbook.com.
Nice.
That'll take you right over there too. But that's about it, man. I'm just, doing my podcasts and doing events and having
Living
fun.
a good life.
I'll see you. You gonna be at Mania round SoFi?
I won't be in Mania, obviously, but I'll be in LA for that Mania week. So yeah, I'll be there.
Oh, good. You know what I mean? Like, see if I can rub elbows with Bischoff. You know what I mean? If we're there. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you.
All right. You guys have a great day. Thank you very much.